Welcome back. So this week we've been talking a bit about reproductive technologies. We started with asexual reproduction. Just my head out the way. That's a strange spot, isn't it? Get me out there. How we do up there. So we started with asexual reproduction. And slide's not moving. That's better. So we sort of started talking about cell theory, because this all really comes back to that third point. All new cells arise from pre-existing cells. And back in semester 1, in unit 1, we looked at binary fission in prokaryotes, and we looked at the idea of mitosis in eukaryotes. So in prokaryotes, of course, that binary fission not only produces new cells, it also produces new life, because these things are single-celled anyway. In eukaryotes, it's simply about growth and maintenance, because we're looking at growing cells within an individual. So when we start thinking about this from a purpose of asexual reproduction, we can see where mitosis as well as binary fission take a role. So clearly in prokaryotes we're still doing binary fission. There are also some simple organisms which, multiple cells that can do multiple fission. Very few cells. But essentially we then find these other processes. And so this is a process known as budding, and that animal, believe it or not, that's an animal. In the diagram, a thing called a hydra. This allows the hydra to respond to really favourable conditions. So these live in water, so you've got lots of nutrient in the water, you've got good water flow and warmth coming back in spring, and you'd imagine these hydra are budding and having a fantastic time. So essentially it's copied itself completely, and that'll break off. And you'll often find hydra with 2 or 3 of these things growing off them, so they can respond really quickly to new perfect conditions for growth. I suppose we should say with binary fission too, so the bacteria are doing the same thing. If their conditions are really good, if the food they need is present, if the warmth is present, the moisture is present, then they'll take off, which is why we get sick, of course. If bacteria take hold in your body and overwhelm your immune system, then there's perfect conditions for them to grow, and they'll grow rapidly. We talked about this really weird little adaptation of sea stars. So a leg's broken off that sea star and a whole new organism grows from it. But not only that, the leg that was lost is replaced on the original animal. So this is really interesting genetic information that people are trying to unlock. How can we regenerate tissue once it's been damaged? Particularly useful for neural damage. So people who have paraplegia or I'm not trying to think of the other one, but you know what I mean. So really useful for research, but of course for the plant, or for in this case the animal, really quick to respond again and create new individuals. Spore formations. This is the underside of a leaf of a fern, and these little brown marks are thousands of spores. So spores are produced by mitosis, and then they're released into the soil, and they'll develop into what are known as gametophytes, and the gametophytes will make gametes. So this is the first stage of reproduction, found in the ferns and the mosses. We've all, hopefully at some point in time, either at school or in the backyard with parents, make cuttings of favourite plants, and that's simply a fragmentation in plants. So we cut them off, put them in a nice wet soil and keep them moist, and they'll often quite rapidly grow new root tissue. You can also use some breeding hormones for that purpose. And there's a strange process called parthenogenesis, and it's seen particularly in insects, seen in some animals like lizards, and sometimes in birds. So in the absence of a male, the female can produce an egg that is in fact, through mitosis, that is in fact complete. So it's not a normal sort of egg, and in that way we can give birth to live young to replace the population in the absence of a male. So there's obviously environmental stresses involved to cause the animal to do this. It's probably not an easy process, but it's one that allows them to respond to change. So the big takeaway, of course, the advantages of asexual reproduction. It's relatively quick, especially in comparison to sexual reproduction. You don't need to find a partner. large numbers of offspring are possible, and it's almost invariably the outcome is large numbers of offspring, and it allows that species to make really good use of abundant resources in the environment. So when things are good, they can respond really quickly and build up numbers. When things are bad, they sort of hunker down and wait for the good to come back again. Disadvantages: the offspring will show very little genetic diversity. And with low genetic diversity, if there's a change in the environment that is bad for the species, then their chance of adapting and surviving that change is really low. And we see that in monoculture agriculture, when they plant a whole lot of one species of wheat, or whatever the plant might be, thousands upon thousands of them. If a disease comes through, a wheat rust, and there's no protection from the wheat rust, then they'll all die, or the majority will die, because they don't have that natural protection. So advantages, disadvantages of asexual reproduction: it's quick, large numbers, but you're all identical. Okay, that's a quick little summary.